On today's DNVR Buffs Live, Coach Prime in Colorado add another coach to the defensive staff. Another Colorado player earns a gray practice jersey, meaning we have a new two-way player. And then just catching up with Unk, what we want to see in tomorrow's scrimmage, and much more. Here we go.
Let's go.
Welcome into the Toyota Lounge, driven by your Front Range Toyota stores. Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR. It is DNVR Buffs Prime Time. What is up, guys? How is everyone doing on this beautiful Thursday? Lots of stuff to talk about ahead of tomorrow's public practice / scrimmage, whatever you want to call it. Uncle Neely will be joining the show soon. Quite a bit of news today, actually, with the scrimmage tomorrow, and then, of course, 2 weeks away from game time today. Can't you feel it in the air? It is time, guys. Let's get excited. Today, we were going to start with the new coach added to Coach Prime and Colorado's defensive staff, building everything back up and getting ready for the season. But George Helow has joined the program as a senior defensive coach. He'll be working primarily under Coach Livingston, the Buffs DC, and Andre Hart with the linebackers. We're getting Neely in here right now. What is up, Unk?
What it do, Jakey Poo?
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
Can't complain, man. I was just talking, we just added another coach to the staff, George Helow. A guy who's come from a lot of high-profile programs. Actually, Nick Saban in Alabama gave George Helow his first coaching gig in 2012 when he was added to the staff as an assistant. He most recently worked there in December, was added by Nick Saban ahead of the Rose Bowl, kind of a crafty little move there. Of course, Michigan ends up winning that game, but before that, he was working with Michigan's linebackers in 21 and 22. Also spent time on Georgia's staff, was on FSU's staff for that natty run in 2013. And just a side note, he did spend 4 years with CSU and 1 year at Maryland. What can you tell us about this hire so far, Unk?
I love his energy. I love his pedigree. We have some mutual friends, because he spent some time back in Ole Miss, so we call each other first cuz around the building. Another guy in the building with Mississippi roots. Good fellow by the name of Gerald Poe, was playing and working with him back in the day. So, it's a lot of connection, a lot of synergy here. So he's bringing some good vibe in.
Love to hear it, man. I think a lot of the fans' concerns with this hire is it kind of reminds them of what happened this time last year when Pat Shurmur came in. Does this mean anything in regards to Coach Hart or to Coach Livingston at all?
I think fans are always overly concerned about things and like to fly off a real deep end real fast. It's just a way to augment this staff and get better. Coach Prime is always about getting better, and anytime he could add, to the staff and the experience of the staff and what they bring to the table, it's not a threat to anybody that's here. It's a way to elevate the team.
I mean, that's how I see it too. Just look at this guy's resume, where he came from. He's bringing in championship pedigree, kind of blue blood pedigree from his time in college so far, and it's just another. We've seen Coach Prime. He's always looking to improve, whether it's a position group, coaching staff, whatever it is. And honestly, that's how I saw it when this came through. It was just another move to add more knowledge and just experience to the staff that is already highly decorated.
Exactly. Back at Jackson State, and I mention this to Coach Prime often, we went undefeated in conference back-to-back years, And in both those years, he would make significant changes to the staff because it's not about winning. It's about being dominant. And it's not like that, mass people are let go or something. When he has the ability to expand and get better, to get deeper, to have a more impact on his team and thereby perform dominantly, he's going to take it.
With his time at Michigan, he worked alongside or coached basically Nikhai Hill-Green, who's now at Colorado. We haven't talked about him too much, Unc, and we'll get to this more in the second segment when you catch us up on what's happened the last few days. I want to ask you about a few more players, but what have you seen from Nikhai so far in camp?
Good energy, good work ethic. He's one of those guys that when he got here, he blended right in. If you walked in the room, you wouldn't know him from a new guy from the old guy. When Coach Prime first arrived here for that first spring ball, you could really tell the difference between the quote-unquote Louis luggage he brought in and the energy of the people who were here or who were just also arriving from other places. When you get guys like Hill-Green in here, you can't tell them apart. Their work ethic, their swag, their knowledge of the game, their questions in their position rooms, you could tell he's a player that's ready to play.
I love it, man. We saw yesterday or today actually that was it today or yesterday when Ray Lewis spoke to the team?
This morning, today.
Just what was that like? How did the guys kind of respond to that pep talk? Really,
man, it's unreal. Was talking to Coach Prime after the Ray Lewis presentation, and I got to admit, 90% of what Ray Lewis said they've heard before from Coach Prime, but to hear it from Ray Lewis, another gold jacket, another guy who was literally the best to ever play his position, to take that time out and from an unscripted standpoint, mention some of the same things that Coach Prime mentions all the time. I think it really drove the nail further that this ain't just a Prime thing. This is a greatness thing. These greats have these attributes in common, whether it's Warren Sapp, whether it's Deion Sanders, whether it's Ray Lewis. You hear the same kind of thing from them from their different walk of life. So I thought it was very encouraging for the players. Interesting, when we were at the Hall of Fame about 2 weeks ago now, talking to fellow Gold Jacket members there with Coach Prime, all of them were saying, what can I do to help? Anything I can do to help, because they want this guy to be successful because he's in that special fraternity of greats that they all exist in. And so to see Ray Lewis hop on a Zoom, he's retired, he's home, he's chilling, but he's making the time to speak to a team, on the other side of the country. I think it meant a lot to him and they took a lot from it.
I love it, man. Just more Gold Jacket kind of pedigree and Boulder with that. Of course, he wasn't here, though. Could we see Ray Lewis at a practice, you think, soon?
I would not put that past it. A lot of the guys that Coach Prime can really call upon are still working in football, like a Troy Aikman, so they're or Tom Brady. They get busy during the football season, so you don't see a lot of them on game day. But Ray Lewis is one of those guys, man. It wouldn't surprise me the next couple of weeks he pops up, or throughout the season he pops up, just like Warren Sapp used to do last year.
I love it, man. We haven't had a Gold Jacket appearance at practice yet. Of course, we got Coach Prime and Warren Sapp, but we haven't had a guest show up yet. So it's exciting times because this is around the time last year where they all kind of started filtering in a few weeks from the season. How are you feeling? 2 weeks from today, Unc, we are kicking off the season against North Dakota State, man.
Man, cannot wait, man. I was just looking at the calendar earlier and just looking at, hey, man, we would have done our first pregame show, Thee DNVR Pregame Show, game-related, season-related, on what would have been last night, the Wednesday before. Then we would be getting ready to play the game and do that post-game show that hopefully doesn't go to 2 or 3 in the morning. Man, but football is back. It's been exciting to be, back in Boulder for fall camp. This is week 3. And so this is that time where it's really those quote-unquote dog days of summer where it's getting monotonous and it's getting to grind. But I think that's why you see Coach Prime throwing stuff at him like a Ray Lewis speech, throwing stuff at him like a Denver trip to play openly in the public. Because then when you get to next week, that 4th week, you're really in North Dakota State mode at that point with the depth chart, with scouting teams. And so your focus is that. But when this week 3 hits, man, it gets monotonous and people are ready to tackle somebody else.
I love it, man. In the final segment today, we'll kind of talk about what we want to see in this public practice / scrimmage. Yes, no?
I'm going to call it one,
Okay.
But right now, so I think it's just listed as a practice.
Okay, sounds good. We'll get to that in the third segment. Last thing I want to ask you about before we hit our first break today, though, is Isaiah Hardge. We saw he got the gray practice jersey. I think he might have had it around this time last year. I remember another young guy had a gray jersey though.
Yeah, I remember that as well, and I really do believe it was him. I don't know how much of it manifested in the practice schemes, but it is a way to add depth and diversity to other units. To give guys other opportunities to show their talents on both sides of the ball. He's got the speed to do it too, man.
Yeah, we saw him for that spring game. He really filled in admirably, I thought, at running back. He's worked at cornerback and wide receiver as well. So, where has he kind of been primarily working so far in the early days of camp?
It's hard to gauge where there's been a balance of it because you see him at receiver, for instance, but that he can also flip over to the corner and just like you said about the spring game, play running back. And it's amazing how far that running back room has come since then. That you had this guy carrying the ball all spring game, and now you got some straight up beasts and dogs in there. But he's a utility knife, man. But with his speed and his hands and his football IQ, you can really and play him anywhere.
I love it, man. And again, just going back to that spring game, I thought kind of based on that, just watching him fill in and his ability in that role, he's obviously an athlete, which is kind of what that gray jersey means. You're kind of the ATH position now. You're not just one position. So I love to see him kind of get in this opportunity to flesh out his game and really try and develop further and just help the team because he seems like that kind of guy where he really doesn't care where he plays. He just wants to help the team and do what's best wherever he fits in.
Absolutely. I mean, you hear Coach Jason Phillips, wide receiver coach, at his presser say, "I got about 6 to 8 guys." He's in that 6 to 8 because he's that talented, man, with his speed and hands that he can fill in somewhere or help you with a trick play or something, but also can flip the defense. And you're up there in the booth and you're the other opponent with your binoculars and you're trying to find him in the program guy because you just don't know where the hell he is. You're familiar with Travis Hunter, number 12, and where all he could play. But this could be a dynamic impact for us.
I love it, man. The last 2 days, did they practice yesterday? What was going on yesterday?
Man, days are running together in my head. Yesterday was Wednesday, no physical practice. Yesterday was an off day, so it was just film and position meetings.
And then today looked like there might have been a little bit going on.
Yeah, today was a practice. Today was a quote unquote. You had the pads on. You were outside physically practicing this morning. Then I'll be back this afternoon. Actually, right now, going into position meetings. Then tomorrow is going to be kind of an elongated day because the practice is pushed back, to 6:30 in Denver.
Right. What was going on the field today? What kind of caught your eye?
The energy and the people are ready for this damn game. Whether it is D. Lewis and Warren Sapp and dancing their energy, whether it's the players' energy, you're hearing a lot of oohs and ahs from what would have been a big hit if you were a real opponent. Because of course you want to keep your knife sharp, but we're not trying to hurt each other or take anybody out. But you see those glimpses from B.J. Green, what he would have done had that been the opposing quarterback. You see it in secondary from a Preston Hardge, what that would have been had it would have been the opposing team. So you get the high energy out there. But guys, man, I'm telling you, should be a spirited practice in Denver tomorrow. But folks are really focusing and getting ready for North Dakota State for when we can finally play somebody in an opposite uniform.
I love it, man. We kind of dug into North Dakota State yesterday, did a little bit of scouting just to get a better feel for what the Buffs are kind of walking into. It seems like, if you've watched a North Dakota State game really the last 7, 8, 10 years or so, they have a distinct style of play. They want to run the ball. They want to be physical. They kind of go, a lot of misdirection, side-to-side stuff on offense as well. And then defensively, what stood out to me was how aggressive they were, specifically, from that slot kind of overhang linebacker position. They were really crashing down on a lot of run plays and stuff. What have you kind of gained just as you've been in meetings and seen a little bit of North Dakota State prep? What's your opinion about them?
Well, first thing, when you talk about seeing them every morning, I don't know if you guys notice it, whether it's the pregame show or Reach the People or Well Off Media, but every morning when you walk in that team room, there's North Dakota State footage up on the screen. And so for the first 20 minutes as you're sitting there in silence or meditating or listening to your music, I sit next to Tyler Brown, now Rock, and he is always just glued to that screen. So everybody's watching what they do. I think you touched on it perfectly there, Jake. what they try to do and do well is something that we have been built to stop this year. This defensive line, these ends and these linebackers have now been built, to not look at the eye candy, but to stay in your assignment, your alignment. And so that movement kind of stuff, should not hinder what we're trying to accomplish. And if you look at just also the experience they have, man, they got some guys been playing 5 and 6 years over there. And so they know what to do and know how to not beat themselves. Everyone looks at, we're having our regular schedule 5 teams who are in the preseason top 25, but don't lose the fact that North Dakota State is number 2 in the coaches poll in their division. So they're not a slouch. Nobody's taking it for granted, and we're going to definitely play to beat them.
Love it, man. All right.
I got to tell all the guys out there, including you that's watching this live broadcast, my guy Michael Pollock, offensive analyst, just walked in. So you never know what's happening on live. So
what's up, Coach?
Oh, man.
All right, let's hit a break, Unc, and then I want to ask you about a few more players on the roster. Look, we're getting older. I'm getting older. I just don't bounce back from a night of drinking like I used to. That's why we're big fans of our new friends over here at DNVR. Z-Biotics. It's a pre-alcohol drink. After a night of drinks, you don't want to wake up feeling terrible. So use our friends over at Z-Biotics. It's a great little product to keep you on your feet and moving, whether it's vacations, weddings, birthdays, and reunions. There's so much going on. Get the most out of your summer plans by stocking up on pre-alcohol now. Go to zbiotics.com/DNVR Buffs to get 15% off your first order. When you use DNVR Buffs at checkout, pre-alcohol is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/DNVR Buffs and use that code DNVR Buffs at checkout for 15%. Shout out to our new friends over there. And then our familiar friends over at BetterHelp. Lots going on in life right now. Back to school. We got football season starting up. It's just we're getting to that busier time of the year, right? So if you just need a place to clear your head, maybe you need someone to talk to. Everyone needs someone to talk to. Hit up our friends over at BetterHelp. You sign up. Everything's completely online. You can fit it around your schedule. You can also change therapists at any time as well to find someone exactly who fits you. Become your soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit betterhelp.com/DNVR today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DNVR. All right, back with my guy, Uncle Neely here. There was like a media day going on. I saw a bunch of the players in uniforms taking pictures. What was going on with that?
Yeah, showing the photographs for the game day guys, that kind of stuff. Social media, the jumbotron when a player makes a big play and he does this, and they have the smoke and stuff around them. Just a photo shoot for that. So they always enjoy that, man. Putting on the clean, fresh unis to take those pictures.
All right. Also, I was going to ask, was this were the new unis involved in this?
No, they were the newish. So the ones that everybody wants to see, he's still holding those back.
All right, Unc, I wanted to just throw out a player name to you for this segment, and I just want what have you learned about them or whatever is going on at camp with that said player? Go ahead.
And I got something special for you. Coach Mike Pollock has agreed to join in on this with me. So,
hell yeah,
if he's here. He's here as well.
All right, we'll bring in Coach Pollock. What's up, man?
What's up, my guy?
Good to see you, bro. Real quick then, before we get into this, how's practice been for you? What's it been like watching these guys just go out to work every day?
Man, it's been great. The competition level out there is out of the roof. The guys are really battling for position, for depth chart, and they understand what's on the line. And I couldn't be happier from my standpoint from what I see right now.
So first guy I want to ask you about, Draylon Miller. What have you seen from him so far? We knew he was a highly touted recruit, and he's been making plays, but what have you seen?
He's been as good as advertised. I mean, we knew what we were getting with Draylon through the recruiting process, got to know him and his family really well, knew what kind of player he was coming from Texas. The kind of high school football he's played against. He's used to that kind of competition, and he's definitely came in here and taken to the coaching that Coach Jason Phillips has given him. And he has definitely been a bright spot for as far as our incoming freshmen and adding some depth in our receiving room.
With the quarterbacks, we know we have two. We're one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. But behind him, what have you seen from Staub and the new guy Ponder so far at camp?
I've seen Staub and Ponder both make great strides. Staubs has been the solid number 2 coming in to camp, and I think he's kind of held that down. The real surprise, it wasn't a surprise to me because I knew Ponder before he got here in terms of being able to watch his film and evaluate him, and a good friend of mine that knew him, that was a quarterback coach down there where he was from, had called me about him. So I knew Ponder had the skill set. I just didn't know what he would come in and do. And he has really, started at the bottom of the depth chart when he got here, and he's a solid number 3 right now.
Love to hear it. With the running backs, Micah had a massive spring. How has he been, just kind of continuing that pace?
Well, Michael Welch is just he brings his lunch pail to work every day. He's a worker. He doesn't say a whole lot. Real quiet kid, but I'll tell you what, he loves the game of football. He comes from the state of Georgia, so there again, we're getting more kids that, freshmen that are used to high level competition. And Micah is just a real workhorse, and he's just going to keep getting better. We just got to ease him into playing college football, because when it's one thing out there at practice, but when those stands fill up and those TV cameras are around, and especially with the environment that we tend to have at our games, we got to make sure those freshmen have their opportunities to be successful and to understand what it's like to play under the lights.
Line, obviously one of the biggest stories of really this offseason and this season. How have they come together? How have you seen that unit just function as a whole so far?
Man, Coach Phil's done a great job with them. We've shuffled them around. Started off with a few guys in some certain spots. Moved a couple of guys from inside outside and outside inside. One of the biggest wasn't a surprise to me because I've seen him do it when I was at Jackson State. But Tyler Brown, moving him out to the right tackle spot has been a huge thing for us, and he's really solidified that area out there for right now. Of course, it's a competition every day, but I expect Tyler to continue to get better and to continue to do those things that really secure that edge on that right side for us.
Last one for the offense, just this tight end room. Coach Brett kind of moved to that position, but we've kind of heard that Sam Hart really has been as advertised so far. What have you seen from him so far in camp?
Well, I tell you what, Savell Small's kind of been the one that's really stepped up. He's running with the ones a lot right now. Sam's been hurt a little bit with a little hamstring pull, so he's been a little slow. We've been bringing him on slowly. He's finally getting healthy again, and we expect Sam and Savell to give us a good 1-2 punch at tight end and be a very serviceable traditional tight end position, unlike what we had last year, where we were kind of converting bigger wide receiver bodies into tight ends. We've got 2 guys that are actually have tight end bodies that they're going to be able to block, inside, outside zone. They're going to be able to do all the things in the pass game we ask tight ends to do. So, we're expecting great things from Savell and Sam.
And then just on the offense in general, Coach, this time last year we heard a lot about the pace of play that you guys wanted to play at. What is the pace like for Shedeur at the line of scrimmage? How much control does he have? What is that going to look like?
Well, I think we've slowed the pace down a little bit from last year. We want to give Shedeur a better opportunity to look at the defenses that he's seeing and be able to dissect a little better. I mean, he's a 4-year starter. This kid, he's a 4-year starter in high school. He's now going into his 4th season in college. Not a lot of quarterbacks can say they've started 8 straight seasons as quarterback, and he's done that. And we're going to run more of an NFL style pace But we will have opportunities that we can pick up the pace and use tempo to our advantage. So I think we'll see, instead of just seeing one tempo all the time where we're just trying to go fast all the time, we'll see a change of tempo, which I think personally is more effective when you trying to catch defenses off guard and trying to get generate big plays with tempo. But yeah, I think that Shador's ability at the line of scrimmage is really going to come out this year and really going to show. Because he's got the ability to change protections. He's got the ability to change, check plays off at the line of scrimmage. So, I think, all of his skill set, things that I've seen him do since he was a freshman, I think all of those will be on display this year.
You cool if we go to the defensive side of the ball?
Absolutely.
What have you seen from the cornerbacks, particularly guys like, Colton Hood, the guys behind the starters? Because it seems like we have a really sound top three with Travis, DJ, and Preston.
Listen, we've got some really solid cornerbacks out there. Coach Mathis has done a great job. I think Colton Hood and some young guys are pushing those top three guys to add some depth to that room, which is what we need with the kind of coverage we play. We've got to be solid at corner, and I think we've brought in the kind of guys that are definitely going to fit what we need. But I think it also, from just from an offensive standpoint, they're making our receivers better because we're seeing some really competitive play between our outside receivers and our corners.
Your guy, Coach Hart, your whistle mate, I guess, if I will.
No.
Trevor Woods has really balled out for him, it seems, and has really made that transition. He just seems more comfortable, just from what we've heard, playing at linebacker. What have you seen from him just as a leader and a player?
Well, I've seen, Trevor's such a hard worker, and he's so smart. He's a student of the game. His football intelligence is super high. I think last year, we saw some growing pains because you saw a safety being moved down the linebacker. When you get into that box, when you're not used to it, it's a different world. He's put on some good weight this year, some solid muscle. He's kept his speed. And like his playmaking ability with his speed is going to continue to be there. But he's definitely a leader amongst the linebacker corps. Trevor's done a great job of just continuing to get better every day. Like I said, he comes to work every day. He doesn't say much, but he certainly works hard and certainly has positioned himself to have a great season.
And then just to the defensive front, Coach, we've seen what Coach Sapp and Coach Lewis they've really kind of transformed the attitude of that whole defensive line. Again, kind of like the offense. Have you seen that come together in the trenches on the defensive side of the ball?
Absolutely. I'm gonna tell you something. They've got some war daddies down there that they are getting to understand what it's like, what the competition level's got to be like to be a defensive lineman. And of course, they've got two of the best that's ever played the game that's coaching them. And they've been there, they've done that, and not only are they good, ex-players, but they're great coaches. They're great motivational guys. They're great technicians. They understand how to play the position, and more importantly, they know how to teach the position. And that's one thing that I would say that Coach Prime in general has done with all the NFL guys that we've brought in. Is not only were they great players, because there's a lot of great players out there that aren't great teachers. The guys that we have are great teachers, and Coach Sapp and Coach D. Lou have really done a great job there with the interior guys in terms of their technique, getting them off the ball and getting them to understand what it's like to play defensive tackle and how to play at the highest level. And also they're developing a depth so they can rotate and keep those guys fresh. So that's exciting.
I'll let you go on this one, Coach. Just with the practice tomorrow down here in Denver, what are you looking for, and just your feelings about the whole thing?
Oh man, we're excited to be, to change a venue, changing our time that we practice from morning to more of an afternoon to where that's about the kickoff time that it's going to be for North Dakota State. To know how many fans are going to be there, the crowd's going to be excited there, and our kids are going to get to be put on display a little bit, and anytime you got people watching and there's a little bit different atmosphere. You can expect a more competitive, everybody to be ramped up a little bit more than normal. And so we're looking for a great time tomorrow night down in Denver. And our kids are excited, our coaching staff's excited. And, we're just looking forward to an opportunity to be in front of some people and to have a great practice.
Well, we're all very excited, Coach. I'll see you down there tomorrow. We get to catch up a little bit, but thank you so much for this, Coach Pollock,
Appreciate
and
it.
for you too, Neely. I mean, this was awesome. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, guy. Anytime.
All right, let's take a quick break, and then we will start to talk more about that practice tomorrow. And shout out to our friends, our great friends over at Breckenridge Brewery. We are having a kind of after party tomorrow after the practice. So if you come down to Denver for that practice, just come hang out with us at the DNVR bar after. RK will be here. I'm sure a bunch of Buffs fans will be here. It's going to be a fun time. And let's crush some Breck Brews while we're at it. You can check out Breck Brews' new West Coast style IPA. It's called the Ridge Runner. It's a double dry hop brew inspired by the untamed beauty of Colorado's trails and creates notes of bright citrus and pine. But you can find any Breckenridge beer near you using their beer locator at www.breckbrew.com. And then our friends over at Circa Sportsbook. Circa is like literally my favorite place out in Vegas, but I do not have the luxury of going out to Vegas whenever I want. So thankfully in Colorado, we've got the Circa Sportsbook app. One of the only books out there who still handcrafts their lines. You're going to get a little more juice on those spreads, maybe a half point in your favor, or maybe some little bit more odds on that plus money line. But if you're in Colorado, you can download the app at circasports.com. Circa Sports bets can only be made while physically located in the state of Colorado. You must be 21 or older. All rights reserved. Circa Sports Colorado encourages you to gamble responsibly. If you have a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER or visit problemgamblingcolorado.org. All right. Unc, you're the man for that, bro. That was legendary. Thank you.
Oh no, man! I'm not the man. I'm the man next to the man. Let me tell you guys something. I have been joined at the hip with Coach Michael Pollock since about December of 2020, right when he was rolling into that first spring COVID season with Coach Prime. And he has always been an open book, open resource, offensive genius. You're talking to a guy who's also been a head coach, who's been coordinators. He knows Shador like the back of his hand. He was Shador's first offensive coordinator at Jackson State. And so his fingerprints are just as much all over this offense as it was, when Shador first started playing. So the pregame show is honored that I get to share an office with Michael Pollock, and we talk football all the time. Now, what you don't want to bring up, Jake, and you almost went there, if you get him started talking about on that Georgia pedigree now, you got to get a whole other show for that, because we had debates in here about which states produce the better athletes.
Yep.
So when he's involved in the debate, you better believe Georgia going to win.
I love it, man. Coach Pollock's awesome. Shout out to him as well. Let's go to tomorrow's scrimmage, Unc. What do we want to see? Do you want to start? Because I've got one right off the top already.
I'm looking for the intensity to pick up, and what I want to be clear about that is the intensity hadn't been flat here, but I think everybody and anybody who has a soul loves to show out in front of company, and when you're gonna have company around, it's not going to be Folsom Field, not going to be 60,000, but there's going to be a practice in front of 5,000 people, quote unquote under the lights. It's an evening practice for us, first one we've had, since we've been back at camp. I think the excitement is going to be there. I think the players, are going to try to fly around a little bit and make people in those stands remember their names before the season kicks off. So I'm looking forward to the intensity being up and that O-line and D-line really showing what they can do.
I love that, because that's kind of where I was going to go. We went to that scrimmage around this time last year and got to check out the team. And I think that was one of the big takeaways from that scrimmage was it seemed like a little low energy that day. And, they were, as you mentioned, this time last year, they were still trying to learn the team pretty much. Mm-hmm. So we're in a different spot now. I want to see the competition that we've been hearing about, and just I want to see it for myself how much better it looks, because when we see, your content, Bucky's and Darius's, we get to see some of the few plays that you guys share. It just looks night and day compared to last year. So I'm just super excited to see how that all shapes out.
And man, that would be my point too. I was sitting here next to Coach Pollock as you were talking to him, and I was answering the questions in my head, and about 98% of our answers were the same, because you've heard me answer about those same players before. So what I'm also looking forward to is 5,000 people getting to see what I've been telling them I've been seeing all spring, all summer, and for these past 2.5 weeks. And I think people are going to leave there knowing that Neely ain't just smoking some Colorado stuff. that this team truly is better than it was this time last year at every position. The coaches' rooms are better. The players have gelled better. And I think folks who come out tomorrow night and watch it are going to take that away from it.
I love it. My next one is on the running backs. I just want to see how that competition is working out right now. Are you still saying, right now, if there's a game tomorrow, would Charlie be the starter, or where are we at with that?
Yeah, I think that's the case. And I think that not only performance-wise, but just as that beautiful story unfolded, he's earned that. And we'll see what happens the rest of camp and going into the season. But I think you'll see a heavy dose of Charlie Offerdahl tomorrow. But I also believe that you're going to see what I've also seen at practice day in and day out when those other guys get those reps. They make you shake your head and say, "All right, now, we got some depth here. We got some guys that can do it." So I'm looking forward to those running backs when they get the opportunity. Hayden and Micah, that they're going to make the best of it, because I've seen that day in and day out, man. Each time a back gets up there, he honors and protects and respects that rep.
Do you have anything that you want to go to right here? I mean, I've got tons that I could throw out. So,
oh man, just keep throwing, bro. I'm on your time, your dime.
Particularly Tyler Brown. But I want to see this offensive line live in action. I'm very, very much looking forward to watching this first team, and just seeing how the offense operates with Shedeur, how the offensive line is looking. And then, like I said, with Tyler Brown at right tackle, like that could be massive for his draft stock. He's played all over the offensive line before, so I'm just really intrigued to see how well he's doing, how well he's fitting in at kind of a new position for him.
That's spot on. And I think you're going to see some mixing and matching with that unit, because you may have a couple of guys held back that will be in the rotation. No serious injuries, knock on wood, from camp so far. Nothing where anybody's going to miss any game time. But this could be one of those practices where you have a couple of guys held out, just so they can, be in fantastic shape for week one. So you still may not get a true glimpse of what the offensive line unit is going to be as far as those starting guys out there. But Tyler Brown will certainly be amongst that group.
And then I guess, same thing on the defensive side of the ball. Last time we spoke in Boulder on Tuesday, you mentioned, Taje McCoy is going to be a factor this year. So I'm very interested to see him and just this loaded group of pass rushers that we have now.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of hungry guys still out there. Jeremiah Brown had a great practice scrimmage this past Saturday. I think you're going to see, Taje McCoy again try to make the most of his reps. Of course, our main thing here, man, is do your thing, but don't touch two. And that's not just the offensive line mantra. That's the head coach. That's the coordinator. That's everybody. Like, hands off the merchandise. Don't be around him when his arm is coming down where a thumb could hit a helmet or something. So get your pass rush on, but make sure you just whizzing by. And so that's one of the things about a practice in front of a crowd. You want the energy high, but you need everybody to still play within the confines to make sure we leave out of there healthy.
Is there anything that you can share with us about the format of tomorrow's practice? What are we going to see on the field exactly?
I'm not sure, Coach Pollock. I think it's just scripted like our normal practice, huh?
I think so.
It's scripted like you'll just see our normal practice. Guys come out there and do individual work in their group, then do some teamwork, then go into the stretch lines and go into the formatted practice, which has everything in it from ND to group teach to 7-on-7, et cetera. So I don't think this is listed as a quote unquote scrimmage where it's a game. But these past practices, and I'm assuming tomorrow we will have officials for part of the practice.
Okay, excellent. Love to hear that. And then just building off what Coach Pollock said with the tight end room, he's got me really intrigued now to see what Savell Smalls is up to, because we know he's a 5-star caliber athlete, and it just didn't really work out on the defensive side of the ball. But, you go back and you watch like his senior year high school film, and he's making plays at tight end all over the field. So I'm really intrigued to see just exactly how far he's come at that position change for him.
Let me tell you something, Jake, and all the people out there who are math experts. And Coach Pollock is an old math professor. He's still in here behind me. I had a buddy who had a job that paid $40,000 a year. He lost that job for about 9 months. He got another job offer at $30,000. And in his head, he had a $10,000 pay cut. And I said, no, you fool, you got a $30,000 pay raise. You can't look at the 40. You lost that. When you look at this tight end room now, you got to remember last year we were playing a walk-on wide receiver at tight end, and we made it work. What Coach Pollock was articulating to you guys out there, we not only got some depth and competition in the room, we got true tight ends now. Like, there is an upgrade. We have a pay raise now in that room. We haven't dropped anything down. We've only gone up. So as these guys, fight and see who's the best in which scheme week to week, or who has the better hands or the better blocking, just know this: none of them are walk-on wide receivers. We have tight ends.
Well, and I feel like that's a big reason why the run game suffered so much last year was when Colorado wanted to get big, it was bringing in, Shane Cokes and Bishop Thomas, in that package. But now that you have actual tight ends, I guess how often are you seeing like multiple tight end sets at practice? How heavy is the personnel getting?
Now, Jake, North Dakota State is watching this. I'm not going to talk about the specifics of the package, and I think even tomorrow, people won't truly see what all we're capable of with it being an open practice. So there'll be different ways we're calling the plays in the huddles, and so people are not there getting any advance on in the signals or anything. But I'll just tell you this: that when there is a jumbo package, the people actually get bigger. There were times last year when you run jumbo package and it was a smaller weight class out there. So there's going to be advantageous things for running backs and for the protection of Shador, because everyone will tell you around here, make no mistake about it, as much as we want our running game to develop from last year, the running backs got to be able to block. As much as we want our tight ends to develop in the route running and improve from last year, the tight ends have to be able to block. You have the number one quarterback in the country that has to be protected, and the offense has to run through that. And then you use that to open up other opportunities for running game and for tight end game. But the first rule of thumb is, man, get out there and protect.
I had to give it a try, Unc. I mean, you got to give me credit for at least trying to ask.
I'm not mad at you for trying, but you'll be one of the people that tomorrow you'll see some different packages. I think Coach Pollock touched on it. This offense is very different from last year. It's not just fast for the sake of being fast. It's fast when we need to be fast, because we have these things called Coach Prime situations, and there'll probably be some of that tomorrow where he makes up a scenario. Hey, it's 4th and 2, 2 minutes left, and we're down 6. Do something. So there'll be some opportunities for people to see this offense move fast, and there'll be opportunities to see it move methodical, because there are times when it's in your best interest to not score fast.
So kind of looking forward to after tomorrow's practice, though. We're right into North Dakota State prep after that, right?
Oh, absolutely. We're at the 14-day mark now, man. So when you finish to walk off that field tomorrow, you're less than 2 weeks away from your open opponent. When you get to that phase of camp, particularly last week, everything is about that week one opponent, and not just the installs, but even the personnel groups. You'll start to develop a true scout team to get ready for them, and you'll start to develop a true depth chart so you know who you're going to war with.
All righty, man. Let's get to questions, and then we'll get you out of here, man.
Miss Dawn Duncan said one more jumbo package, and they're going to have to do the pause. I love it.
That's all on you, brother. That's all on you. All right. Shout out to our friends, the American Raptors over at Infinity Park. Rugby season is back. The American Raptors are back. Rugby Town Sevens tournament is back, actually. That's what's going on right now. From August 23rd to 25th, it's the ultimate rugby event of the year. There's going to be 62 thrilling matches spread over 3 days in Glendale at Infinity Park. It's going to be the epicenter of rugby, so make sure to tune in. Again, guys, rugby is a great game. I encourage you all to give it a chance. If you didn't watch any in the Olympics, just pull up some rugby. The American Raptors do stream on ESPN Plus if you have that, so you can check them out there. But don't miss out on this event and the top-tier competition, unforgettable moments that we're going to see. Tickets are on sale now. Visit rugbytownusa.com for more info. Gather your friends and family and join us for a weekend of spectacular rugby action, and we'll see you there. And then also, Unc, our wonderful friends at Game Time. You know what it is. Use that promo code BUFFS, BUFFS. Tell these people how crucial it is to get in on Game Time right now for that game 2 weeks from today, because, man, it is going quick.
Hey, dude, you can go back further this summer when it was announced that Cincinnati was already sold out. One thing that's going to occur with everywhere that Colorado plays, these games are going to sell out. But here's how you can still get in. You go to Game Time, you download that app, create your account, and if you use the code BUFFS, we're going to give you $20 off your first purchase. Can't get a better deal than that. I guess the only better deal would have been $21 off, but 20 is a good place to start. BUFFS gets you $20 off. And here's the thing about the Game Time app. You can see your seats in real time. There are no seats with a beam or something blocking your view. You get to 3D see where you're going to be seated. There's no hidden fees, no last minute pop ups to say, oh, we got to charge you about this. It is what it is. It's going to be what's going to be. Game time. Create your account. Use BUFFS. You're going to get $20 off those first tickets.
Just well done. What a professional. Terms apply again. Create an account. Use that code BUFFS, BUFFS. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Unc, we got a lot of questions today, so let's hit them. Let's speak to the people.
All right, and we still got Coach Pollock in here, so if they got a question for him, we'll roll him over now.
All right. Jared asked, is Juju's first game tomorrow? I believe so. Last time I saw the schedule, I think it was August 16th. They did have some action. I don't know if that was a first game or a scrimmage, but yeah, that's what's going on there.
I take your word for it. I hadn't looked at the schedule.
No worries. I got you covered there, Unc. Mr. Pierre asks, maybe you can answer this one, though. When is Kardell Thomas going to be there, the offensive lineman who joined or just officially committed, I think, last week from FAMU?
I think people will be surprised at how fast these moving parts, arrive and join in and participate.
All right. Excellent. So sounds like we could possibly see him tomorrow. We'll find out. 5280 Ivan has a question for you, Unc. Who has stood out this week at camp? Isaiah Hardge?
Oh, man. These are some great questions. I think there's been a lot of the usual suspects. The chemistry between Shador and the receivers only increases with each practice. As we were first doing these shows at the beginning of fall camp, we talked about how the outcomes were heavily influenced by the defense. The defense was way ahead. I think now with each and every rep, each and every practice, the offense has gone to not just hanging in there, but winning. And so you're having more balance at practice and more iron and sharpen iron. And so it's hard for me to say who's had a week 3 because everybody's continued to improve.
That just sounds awesome, man. And you kind of answered it there, but is there a side of the ball that you would pick this week that has stood out to you the most?
I'm not going to sit here with Coach Pollock behind me and not say offense.
All right. I love it. I saw a question.
He might throw something at me, man.
Well, I won't tell him what you said the first 2 weeks then.
No, I will say, and I think he would agree with me. Those first couple of practices, the defense was clearly getting the upper hand. But that's expected early on, particularly when they're in a lot of man and you got Travis playing on both sides to be able to come back over and tell what they're about to do. I don't think there's any surprise there, but I'll also just still continue to say, man, those days are beyond us where the defense is just dominating the camp.
Great to hear. I saw someone in the comments ask what network is the first game on 2 weeks from today, Thursday, August 29th, ESPN, 6 p.m. On the main network.
I think our first 4 games are all televised and all on different networks.
Yes, they are. ESPN, NBC, CBS, and then I don't think we have a network actually for Baylor yet, but that one's going to be on Premier TV. That's homecoming and everything.
Yeah.
What else
I
we got to
wouldn't be
listen?
surprised if the game day and all that kind of stuff starts showing up for that one.
Oh, we'll get them. Life, Love, Laughter with Nikki says, Unc, did you get any player reactions after Ray Lewis spoke?
Not individual player reaction as in interviews, but you saw that there was thunderous applause and you saw people fist bumping each other. Later on after the speech, you heard people quoting the speech. In fact, at the practice breakdown before we got ready to start practice after the warm-up lines, Coach Prime had the linebackers come up and announce what they got from the speech. And everybody said something profound and said something different. So you could tell Ray Lewis really hit home with them this morning. And, hell, me and Coach Pollock was in there 8 men and 2. So it wasn't just for the kids.
I love it, man. We can expect to see some of that on the pregame show coming up soon, right?
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. Scotty asks, what are the 5 players outside Shador and Travis that must play good for the Buffs to make a playoff run?
That's everybody. It's not just 5, man. Let me tell you about this team on offense and defense. And Coach Pollock, I want you to throw something at me if I tell a lie. last year in this building, you walked around and the schedule was printed out, and it was just the 12 games of the season. You walk around this building now, and it's all the way to the championship is printed out. And one thing we know here, for 17 weeks versus a 12-week mentality, everybody with a uniform is going to be counted on. Whether that's scout team and development, whether that's the twos challenging the threes and the threes to twos and twos to ones and so forth. Everybody on this team is going to play a role. And when you get down to defensive line and offensive line, you may not be a starter against North Dakota State, but by the time we get midway the season, you're going to have some playing time. And I would say that by the time you get to the end of the season, a lot of these guys are going to have the same number of snaps, whether or not they had the same number of starts. So when you say who's needed outside of those big names, this entire team is needed if we're going to get Miss Peggy to a bowl game and beyond.
I mean, yeah, exactly that. I think you could honestly, for 5 players, you could probably just say the offensive line too, and as a unit, because we know how big that they're going to factor in. So,
but let's imagine they played well, but the defensive line didn't stop the run. You're in the same position, so I'm still going to fall back on it. It's not about another 5. It's about playing complementary football. We got to have the offense, the defense, and special teams all clicking together. We can't have Mate kick it down to the 5 and then have a 95-yard drive. We got to be able to kick it down to the 5 and get them a 3 and out, and then they kick it back to us and we get it on the 50 and we score 2 plays later. We got to play complementary football like that. So that means no more leading the nation in penalties, and that means taking advantage of every opportunity, and you need more than 5 players to do that.
Perfectly said, Unc. Jay asks, Unc, do you want to make number 59 Tristan Marois laugh? Next time he has a good rep, yell tabernacle. Short for tabernacle means the same as OMG. He will love the reminder from his French Canadian home.
Well, we make him laugh every day because we hit him with a lot of religious jokes that are probably too bad for live TV. But he's everything from Jesus of Canada, So yeah, he's got a great personality, man. And tell you what, I met him last year when he showed up right at our team cookout. As a walk-on guy that's just trying to make college football somewhere. And you talk about somebody who has just grown and matured on and off the field and become a leader in that position, and always asking questions of the coaches and raising his hand to challenge his teammates. He really is a good guy out there.
Well, and it seems like he's stepped up to be a more vocal leader too. We're seeing him, kind of leading the huddle after practices a lot more and stuff. So, and he balled out in the spring game from what I remember. So he really seems like a player on the rise.
Oh, absolutely. The only challenge is sometimes when he breaks down and says something motivational, about 20% of the team says, "What the hell did he say?"
I love it.
The more excited he gets, the more pronounced the accent gets.
Yeah. Well, let's hope we hear that accent a lot more then, because that means he's making plays. I'm Heaven's Demon asks, what can you tell us about Quency Wiggins? How's he look so far?
Looks good, man. Like, have y'all seen that guy?
Oh yeah.
Like, we talked last year about having some guys in the trenches that you were scared of just because of the way they looked. He's got one of those frames, one of those attitudes. He is about the business, man. Somebody's going to know his name this fall.
Awesome, man. Who's next? Scotty again. With the mainstream media being heavily critical of CU before the season starts, will media access to the players be limited for CBS and ESPN before the televised games?
As far as CBS goes, Coach Prime is still working through some things with CBS. Can't announce those details right now, but looks like the arrow is potentially pointing up. As far as ESPN and other networks, as far as their broadcast coverage is concerned, it's part of their packaging to spend time with players and coaches, leading up to the game. That way you have that filler content during timeouts and doing pregame and postgame stuff. So I imagine that would be business as usual. I typically sit in on the pre-production meetings with Coach Prime when he's meeting with the broadcasters because, that's when they sit around, this third and whatever, and they say, yeah, I talked to Coach Prime last night and blah, 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 blah. All those meetings, will still take place as planned.
Powers ask, is DNVR going live tomorrow from practice or after with Unc? Yeah, we'll be live from the bar after during that after party. You haven't told me yet, so I don't know either. Are you going to be at the bar tomorrow?
It's 50-50. You got to see what time the main thing ends, and maybe it can line up that on the way to the main thing, I can shoot by there for the 3:15 p.m. live show and just already be in Denver. But there's so many moving parts to this. Honestly, don't know, Jake, but I would really love to get by there to get to Ralphie so I can start dry aging it.
Of course. I'll I can have Chef Rob start it for you right now, so you have another day, so you don't have to wait as long. If that makes it easier for you.
No. Let me handle the dry age process. What I'll do is I'll come tomorrow. I'll order 2. I'll eat 1 and dry age the other for next week.
All right. Hambadge says penalties seem cleaner compared to scrimmage time last year. What can you share with us about that, Unc?
That it's a place of emphasis, it's a place of focus. So many times when people hear Coach Prime talk about discipline, they think it's out partying or something, but this internal discipline is having your socks right, making sure your uniform looks like everybody else's, being in meetings on time, watching your film the time you're supposed to watch it, all those little things. Because he'll tell you the person that doesn't do that is the guy that jumps off sides. The person that doesn't do that is the person who shoves somebody down after play, and we get a 15-yarder. We are, heavily tracking penalties, during practices and scrimmages, and players are notified and position coaches are notified because it is something we have to absolutely clean up. Everybody wants to talk about the number of times that Shedeur got sacked last year, and that's rightly so. But you also look at the number of penalties, self-inflicted penalties, pre-snap penalties that took away, momentum-giving drives for us. And we cannot do that this year if we're going to be a championship ball club.
Love it. Steven, compared to last season, which group looks more improved, interior, D-line, or edge?
All of it. You still have to say, I know you're asking about defense, but if you got to go for a much improved unit, of course the focus is going to be on offensive line because of what their job is and who they're protecting. But I think we have gotten better from pole to pole in the trenches, both sides of the ball.
To kind of go with that too, Unc, we've seen the edge and the D-line, they're grouped together now, right? Like they're not separated into the edge room and D-line room. How is that, in your opinion, how has that kind of affected both those groups, I guess, have come along so far?
Well, it's affected my coverage of them because I can't fit in the room. So that's one downside of it. But as far as them all working together, communicating the same language, it's working perfectly, man. Last year, like you said, they were in different rooms and would get together out on the field, but now they're watching the same film together, 3 coaches in the room with them, and all of that is just going to make them perform better and more cohesively.
A few more. Jesse asked, will we see multiple O-lines used this year? I'm assuming he means like combinations on the offensive line.
Yes, particularly you'll be able to testify that tomorrow, Jake. You're going to see a lot of mixing and matching. I think you've heard in the clip, whether it was on DNVR or the pregame show or the DNVR pregame show, where Coach Phil Lodeho said that was his intent, that we're going to shake this thing up. We don't have any starters yet. And it wasn't just coach talk, that we're going to look for the best guys and the best guys that play together. And that takes different situations and different scenarios during practice to mix and match. But I think, whereas he said that last week, he is, beyond that now and really becoming more solidified in who those people are. But there's still going to be instances for matchup wise, whether it's a run play or pass pro, there's going to be times where you still see different people out there for this unit.
One more. Nicholas joining in late. What's up, man? He asked, how's Taje McCoy looking? You said he was going to be a factor this year on Tuesday. We already kind of talked about him a bit, though. It sounds like he's really taken a leap from his freshman to sophomore year, though.
Yeah, I believe that and loving it. He has the potential to be one of those guys that you didn't know his name going into the year, but mid-season, end of the season, he's one of those guys that everybody knows because he has big game potential in him.
More real quick. We saw Coach Prime put out the message because Jimmy Horn Sr. was having some type of hearing, I think. I'm not sure exactly the details, but can you share anything about Jimmy Horn Sr. and that whole process? What's going on?
I haven't heard. Jimmy Horn Jr. is back in the building today.
Okay.
I was just with him in the cafeteria, but I don't think there's been any updates as far as a ruling. We're just pulling and praying for his dad, Jimmy Horn Jr., the whole family, because we know how much it means for Jimmy Horn Jr. in that relationship to be the best it can be.
I mean, this year's going to be something to behold. So Jimmy Horn Sr. should be allowed to see what's about to unfold under the Flatirons.
And if y'all had a question for Coach Pollock, he just stepped out. So
All
no
right, no
questions.
worries. We got super chats, and then I'll let you go, Unc. Thanks again so much for this. Chairman A with the super chat says, "What's up with this new hire for senior defense from Alabama? Is he higher ranked than Robert? What's his extra role in the team?" We kind of talked about this at the beginning of the show, but if you want, Unc, you can go ahead and answer.
No, the highest guy on defense is the defense coordinator and the head coach, and that's in any organization. But this is just another guy brought in to help us get sharp in areas or sharper in areas. It is not, an indictment on someone's job security. It is a testament, however, of Coach Prime's desire to be better and better each day, each week, until we reach consistent, dominant fashion. I saw Coach Prime do this at Jackson State. You saw him do it here last year. He's going to always add tools to the toolbox that help this team become better. And I think that's what you just saw on the defensive side of the ball.
And then last one from Marcus. He asked, how good is having a multitude of brothers and family members helping to get helping the team gel more this year?
I think it's a indirect ripple effect of it, because you have these quote unquote sets that already exist, and people join onto them. Like you see it, whether it's offensive players, defensive players, and they're blood related, and it just has a ripple effect through the team. But I must also say that there's sometimes, if they didn't have shirts on with their names on the back, you wouldn't know who the brother or cousin was, because they're not anybody else treated any differently. So, the hoods, the Westers, they treat everybody else like hoods and Westers. So it's one of those things that it's a beautiful thing to have in the building. You can sense the ripple effect of it, but you also can't tell it apart.
I love it, man. The family aspect of this team is one of my favorite parts. And you're kind of my extended family, Unc. So appreciate you so much for hopping on for today and for getting Coach Pollock on the show, man. Really, that was super cool. So thank you so much.
So you just let this be a reminder to RK in his absence. RK says, "Oh, neither, you got to come to the studio." And I tell him, I say, "Hey, when I'm in the studio, it's just me. If I'm in the building, we can pull anybody and everybody when they're in the building." So you saw today.
He'll be back tomorrow too, so we'll definitely talk about it for sure. Excited to see you tomorrow. We do have one more super chat actually from Don Peasy. Once again, great show. I really believe we will have a great season. We are going to have a great season, Don Peasy. It's going to be a fun time. Man, thanks again, Unc. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm super excited to watch this team and to finally get a sight of it for myself, because I've been aching for it.
And man, and again, hats off to you, Jake, the way you can hold it down solo there in the studio. You do a magnificent job. I know from time to time, whether it's me, RK, or me and RK, we try to give you the business, but you truly are a professional at what you do. And congrats on your third year. I think today is
yes,
3
sir.
years.
Yep, starting
Congrats
today.
on your 3 years with DNVR All City, man. You're doing a hell of a job, and can't wait to see where you are 3 years and 3 years after that, because your star and stock are rising, brother. And I'm going to tell the world I had everything to do with it.
Well, I appreciate it. We rise together, Unc, and it's all kind of because of you too. So thank you so much. Excited to see you tomorrow, man. We'll catch up then. Go Buffs.
Let's do it. Let's go Buffs.
We all silly like the mayor.